On behalf of the Guyana Action Party, a member of the coalition, I stand to make my contribution on the motion of support for the government and people of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana and reaffirming recognition of the 1899 Arbitral Award and the 1966 Geneva Agreement. Mr. Speaker, before I delve into this motion, please allow me to express a warm welcome to all our distinguished visitors who are here with us today in Parliament. I encourage you to visit our hinterland and so enjoy our hospitality and the unique experiences we have to offer. I guarantee that should you visit once, you will always want to come back to visit. Mr. Speaker, the subject of our debate today is one that must be appropriately placed as being most important for our future survival as a nation in the short, medium, and long term. Mr. Speaker, Essequibo is our El Dorado. It is our home, and we are proud to live there. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to say that the indigenous peoples of Guyana stand firmly with all Guyanese in saying to the world that Essequibo, our El Dorado county, is ours and will stay ours. Mr. Speaker, the history of what is now known as the North and South America did not begin with the arrival of Christopher Columbus, who got lost on his way to the East Indies. Prior to Columbus, my ancestors as a whole settled and lived without country borders as we know it today. Mr. Speaker, because of the worsening socio-economic situation in Venezuela, we have seen Guyanese who have migrated to Venezuela remigrating to Guyana with their families. We welcome them and wish them all the best. Also, Mr. Speaker, there are migrants from many countries who are in transit to other pastures or have settled here legally. On humanitarian grounds, we welcome them, we welcome you. Mr. Speaker, recently I saw an indigenous Venezuelan Waro child, about 4 years old, sitting on a floor in front of a shop in Latam, begging for a meal. I saw someone purchasing a meal and giving it to the baby. Mr. Speaker, I immediately called the International Organization for Migration's office to report this matter and to seek their assistance. I must say that the team from IOM and other agencies visited a few days later and support was given to those in need. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to say thanks to the IOM, UNICEF, Food for the Poor, and other local and international organizations for their timely, positive interventions to those in need, be it Venezuelans or whomsoever. Mr. Speaker, this problem or the issue of migrants and refugees entering our country is one we have to face frontally, and we must not, if I should use the Guyanese terminology, dilly-dally on this issue. We therefore request that the government seriously consider to expand an all-inclusive task force with adequate budget to manage the migrants-refugee situation urgently. Mr. Speaker, we note that the government of Venezuela is embarking on a referendum to, among other issues, seek the annexation of Essequibo. We note that this move has no support or legal leverage in international law. Mr. Speaker, this move by Venezuela could take us to centuries ago when the Spanish conquistadors and other invaders trampled over the territories of my ancestors, and in that process destroyed several civilizations, all in the name of greed. Mr. Speaker, in 1831, the counties of Essequibo, Demerara, Berbice came together under the British to be known as British Guyana. In those early days, steps were put in place to fix boundaries using the acceptable and agreed upon protocols available. Mr. Speaker, in 1899, the Arbitral Award was a protocol agreed upon by the United Kingdom and the country now known as the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela to settle the boundaries of the two countries. The boundaries were accepted by the two countries. In 1905, the mutually agreed upon boundary was made legally binding. Mr. Speaker, some 60 years later, according to a historical anecdote, we were then told that the document left by Mr. Provost, a lawyer, purported that the powers that existed in the days leading to the mutually agreed upon decision of the 1899 Arbitral Award had made a bargain that somehow cheated Venezuela out of Essequibo. Mr. Speaker, to date, there has been no proof to substantiate that story, as told by Mr. Provost. And we stand by waiting to see this legally binding, proof that we can accept, but there is none. Further, an agreed upon process based on international law was activated and pursued by Venezuela and Guyana under the auspices of the Good Office of the United Nations. Today, the process has reached the International Court of Justice. Now we note that Venezuela is saying that they do not want the ICJ to rule on this matter. Further, Mr. Speaker, a planned referendum that is similar to a loaded dice by Venezuela is set for the 3rd of December to up its ante and could lead to Venezuela against international laws moving to annex Essequibo. Mr. Speaker, I repeat that we stand with all Guyanese and the government of Guyana against this most serious threat to our sovereignty and territorial integrity. Mr. Speaker, we are cognizant of the fact that Venezuela is heading towards an elections, and we ask that the Essequibo factor be not used by anyone to work in their favor with the disruption of the zone of peace that we all currently enjoy. Mr. Speaker, we in Essequibo and in Guyana note that there has been for some time a massive exodus of Venezuelans to neighboring countries, not only Guyana. This we understood is because of the terrible socio-economic conditions that the people of Venezuela are experiencing. We, the inhabitants of Essequibo, the Guyanese Essequibians, given the choice, prefer to speak English and live free of any conquistadors enslaving us. Mr. Speaker, we are not in a perfect country, but it would be most calamitous for us to allow ourselves to descend to a situation in which we can be subjugated or having to migrate to other countries in search for better socio-economic conditions. Having a Venezuelan ID card will not make our lives better. And I leave it at that for now. Mr. Speaker, with the previous statements, one cannot say in all honesty that we are happy with the state of affairs in Guyana. The same way we can shout with one voice to say that we are all in solidarity and we stand and say that Essequibo is ours, which we mean, the same way we must work towards correcting or solving the festering problems that we face in our beloved Guyana. Mr. Speaker, we call for the People's Progressive Party's government that is currently the government of Guyana to respect our symbols of nationhood, inclusive of our flag, the golden arrowhead, and our national motto of one people, one nation, one destiny. And I heard the Honorable Hugh Todd did mention today, and I wanted to go across and shake his hand, but I didn't do it. Next time. The One Guyana slogan that is currently being promoted by the People's Progressive Party using state funds is being seen to be a political slogan that caters for only one section of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, it is said that whom the gods wish to destroy, they first make mad. Only someone in this state would wake up one morning and instruct the police in Guyana to identify their vehicles with the Spanish word policia What message are you sending to Guyanese in these times, be it actual or subliminal? What message? Mr. Speaker, we saw a Facebook video which was somehow allowed to circulate, in which a senior executive of the government is said to have met in secrecy with Venezuelan migrants and sought to wrongfully promote a partnership of national unity, APNU, as practicing xenophobia against the Venezuelan migrants. It seemed that this individual would go to all ends, including putting Guyana in danger to achieve his objective of continuing his de facto presidency for another term. We call on this individual to tell us whether this is true or false. If true, the least we expect as soon as possible is an apology to the people of Guyana, not to us in Parliament, the people of Guyana. Mr. Speaker, as we sit in the House to give our support to Guyana, our beautiful mother, we have to insist that we are given the reasons to feel that we are fairly included in all spheres of Guyana's life. Mr. Speaker, since the PDP became the government of 2020, we have seen the attempted and actual trampling of the rights of indigenous peoples. One example is a single-window bill that sought to supersede the Amerindian Act and the land rights of the indigenous peoples. Luckily, the coalition managed to get this bill to go to a select committee where satisfactory changes are made thanks to the coalition and the government of Guyana. However, Mr. Speaker, recently a petroleum activities bill was passed in Parliament that gave the Minister of Natural Resources the full authority to control the process and issue oil exploration licenses in any part of Guyana. This is inclusive of indigenous peoples' ancestral lands, whether titled or untitled, and land contiguous to it. Mr. Speaker, we urge that this bill be urgently repealed. Mr. Speaker, this unjust threat by Venezuela must not see us going our separate ways, but on the contrary, allow us to come together as a wholesome nation. As such, things cannot continue as normal. No one will stay proud when hungry and in need. Time to look after the needs of the people. Time for livable incomes for our workers. Time for retooling the Guyana Defense Force. Time for restarting our national service. Time for fair and equitable distribution of our natural patrimony. Mr. Speaker, already we have noted that some are promoting Guyana to be an antagonist in this controversy. This is totally untrue. Please allow me to repeat that Guyana's modus operandi with regards to this issue has always been to follow the course of acceptable international law. Mr. Speaker, please allow me to express many thanks to the countries and international organizations that already express solidarity with our position and have called for both parties to respect the International Court of Justice in the final arbiter. Let me say it again, we are not causing this. We are not the antagonists here. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Guyanese, I join with all patriotic Guyanese, including my colleagues in the Noble House, in saying that we affirm the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the state of the Cooperative Republic of Guyana, and that we are in full support for the motion before us in its entirety. Let us remember the famous story of the three-legged stool told by a former Vice President, Mr. Sidney Alcott, when he said that there are three legs, if there are three legs on the stool, you have to have all three legs. And the three legs in this situation, I would dare say, is the opposition, the government, and the people. All three of us are needed in this struggle that we are facing now. Long live our dear Cooperative Republic of Guyana with its 83,000 square miles. No, nothing less, including our beloved Essequibo, our El Dorado. Thank you very much.